But all of us started with the source. Everything there is came from it, and it cannot exist without it. It is the glue that holds everything together. If it were to wink out for a fraction of a second, everything would disintegrate. It cannot exist without this power that holds everything together.
We're basically stating a general truth which can apply to every religion. Great.
And in the very beginning, God, it's been described as a huge bright light, a huge energy source that everything emanates out from.
Yeah, in the Bible, God is regarded as light, but he's not the source of light. That would be the sun. And to me, it's very strange to describe God like that, but let's see where this is going.
But what I've found in my work is that in the beginning, God was just this huge energy source pulsing out there in space, if you want to limit him by saying space.
And I don't think this is true. Yes, God can be described as a light, but he's just somebody, he's just there. We don't know what was before him. That's kind of the point. So people back when the Bible was written didn't really know much about outer space as we do now. Therefore, some things can be inaccurate. Yes, there were the stars and there were the three wise men who saw the star, but their knowledge of space wasn't as advanced as it is now. Yes, there are the Sumer people in Mesopotamia who were really interested in astrology and made it a science in and of itself, but again, space wasn't as known back then. So the Bible doesn't really mention space, outer space or planets or anything like that for this exact reason.
But then he became curious. He wanted to know, he wanted to learn, he wanted to experience.
That is your personal interpretation, and I'm not going to say that it's incorrect because I don't have the power to say that. The point is, I think in my opinion, that God created the world because he wanted beauty and he wanted to see beauty and he wanted people and he wanted the angels to basically see him and to acknowledge him. And because think about it, before God we don't know what there was. Maybe there was a nothing, maybe there was a something. We don't even know what was before God, if there was anything before God. So I think that he created the world in an act of selflessness, and he wanted to create the world in order to see the beauty that could happen in that world.
He couldn't do it on his own. So he exploded out. And when he exploded out, you may call this the Big Bang.
I will have to stop you right there, because the Big Bang Theory was a theory which was established later on in the history of the world. And when the Bible was written, people didn't know about it, obviously. And because of that, I think it's pretty not okay to say that God exploded. No, he created the world in 6 days, and he strategically created things one by one. He didn't just explode, because God is an orderly being. He's all-seeing, all-knowing. He's everywhere all at once. And I think it's pretty bad and downright heresy to say that the world was created in chaos from a biblical and Christian perspective. From a scientific perspective, sure, but from a biblical one, absolutely not. Stop it.
Theory. But when he exploded out, all the particles flew out in all different directions. Those particles, little sparks, some of them became universes, some of them became galaxies, and some of them became the human souls.
I find it extremely weird how these New Age people and New Age cults, I called it a cult, arrest me. mix a bunch of beliefs like Christianity, Hinduism, science fiction. Did I mention that L. Ron Hubbard, the guy who founded Scientology, did so because his science fiction books weren't selling or something like that? Well, now you know. I find it extremely weird that people mix all of these things, so religion and modern science, and because they're not trained in either of these domains, they don't actually know what they're talking about. So, yeah, this is a whole bunch of baloney.
When you take us back to what we really are, we are just a tiny spark. We are a tiny spark that started with God. We were sent out and told, go out and experience and learn.
From a Christian perspective, we are God's children, and our purpose in this world is to be Christian, to act like Jesus acted, and to spread the gospel. That's pretty much our point, and we should be good people, and we should reach heaven, and during the final judgment, we should be able to be in heaven, from my understanding.
Learn everything there is to learn, and then bring it back.
Now, this makes absolutely no sense to me, because God already knows everything that there is to know. He knows more than we know. He knows the future. He knows our future. And it would be nonsensical to say that God doesn't know everything, and our purpose is to send messages and what we've learned back to him, because that kind of goes against religious teachings. You catch my drift?
That's why there is no good, there is no bad. It's only experiences, it's only lessons.
Sorry, but the main idea that there is no good or bad is not, absolutely not accurate. Whether in real life, whether in religious teachings, there's no such thing. Good and bad, yes, they do exist. Morally gray areas, psychologically, yes, they probably do. But there's always a distinction in Christianity between, and Abrahamic religions in general, in my opinion, between good and bad. We have God, we have the angels, we have the saints who are good, and then we have demons, Satan, corruption equals bad. Historically speaking, when it comes to certain churches, that's a whole different story. But if we just treat the Bible as it is, there are plenty of stories and parables of good versus bad, of being tempted versus resisting that temptation. So this is just not accurate in my opinion.
And as that, if you picture that when we're journeying out through all of our hundreds and thousands of lifetimes.
This is just a combination of Hindu teachings with New-Age bullshit, in my opinion. And again, why do they mix so many religions and not understand anything? So, from what I've googled, and it took 5 minutes. In Hinduism, yes, there are past lives, and they're determined by what you did in your other life. And for instance, let's say if you were a bad person, you're going to get reincarnated as an animal or something like that. But if you're a good person, you'll be reincarnated as a human, and you cannot access your past reincarnations, and the ultimate goal is to achieve samsara, so basically sort of Hindu heaven. And this isn't compatible with Christianity at all, because these are different religions, because it's biblically inaccurate and heresy to state things like this.
And I asked one time, what does the source do with all of this information once we accumulate it and bring it back? That it uses it to create more. It's constantly in a state of creation. And everything is created through love. Love is the force behind everything.
I warn you that what you're about to experience is the biggest fucking brain aneurysm if you have any sort of critical thinking, and the main reason as to why I decided to make this video in the first place. Just wait and see. It's absolutely bonkers, and it makes no sense.
And it uses all of our experiences, all of our knowledge, everything we have gained to create more, to create new universes, to put other forms of life on it. And it goes on and on and on. There is no end.
Sounds like a straight up science fiction novel gone cult. Gone cult. This is exactly what it sounds like. Because it's nonsensical. God has already created everything that he has wanted to be created. What would be the point in him having this information sent to him, which he already knows, by the way, is just a test on us to see that if we've been good, you know? Like, that's why we confess our sins, not because God doesn't know them. Of course he knows them, he's all-knowing, but because he wants us to repent for them. That's the point. And again, I find it very, very strange how she just mixes all of these religions and she gets lost in the sauce, and it's just funny.
And I said one time, what happens when we get all of the information we've accumulated from hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes back to the source? We can stay there for a while because they say once you're there, you don't want to leave again. And I said, what happens then? He said, then it explodes out again, it all starts again.
I need to explain why this makes absolutely no sense from a critical standpoint. Like, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care how old you are, I don't care if you've, gotten a degree in anything. Regardless of that, if you have a working brain, you do realize this is one of the stupidest things. Jesus, it's awful. It's just awful, and people have fallen for this, and you'll see later, and I'll explain later how her whole bullshit worked. It still works, unfortunately, because even after her death, it's still there.
And somebody asked me one time, well, what happens when you have learned everything that's possible to learn in this universe? Don't you ever stop? Don't you ever just stay there? And he said, no, there's other universes. There's other galaxies.
Sounds so bad. So even then, if you've studied every single fucking galaxy and every single fucking universe, there are still more galaxies and universes? This sounds like absolute torture, in my opinion. Even if you love learning, even if you love God and whatever the fuck else she's saying, this sounds like torture. This sounds like a cult where you have to learn and learn and learn and learn. But what do you even learn? Because some of these people, you'll see later, don't even believe in actual medicine. They don't believe in vaccines, because I know somebody who is in this thing who was vehemently anti-COVID-19 vaccines and anti-masking. I'm not going to say who, but just know that people like that exist, and they get sucked up into these New Age cults, and it's fucking embarrassing. Like, if God places you on the earth, in her opinion, to learn, why don't you learn things that contradict your viewpoint? This is so weird. Oh wait, but your brain can cure you of your diseases, and you can change your DNA and all of this other bullshit. Oh wait, I forgot. It hurts your brain. It hurts my brain.
There's other ways of life that you can't even possibly imagine. And we're always adventurers going out and trying to explore and find what's out there. But in that way, we are all God.
Clipped out more, but I didn't want to take this video out of context. However, this is, from my Christian perspective, it's absolute BS, because we are not God. We are not on the same level as God. We are his children, like I mentioned earlier. So we're not subservient to him per se, but we are sort of below him, and we learn through the world to basically be on his side, to not fall into temptation. And our ultimate goal is to either be saints or to go to heaven, and that's the point. So we are not God. Yes, we are. Well, Adam was made from earth and water, and he was made with God's breath, but that doesn't mean that he is the same thing as God. That's not the point of the Genesis.
And that's not sacrilegious to say that. We are all God because we came from the source, and we are a part of it, and we will continue to be a part of it.
So what did the snake promise to Eve when he told her that she could eat the apple from, or the fruit, from the tree of knowledge? Exactly, that she would be just like God. So, it's heresy. It's very heretical to say that we are the same as God. Because, first of all, we're not. Second of all, that's literally what Satan would say. So, let's not do that, okay? Let's respect other religions.
And when we think of it that way, our little petty problems are nothing compared to what we're really here for. To gain knowledge and information, to help each other understand that love is at the basis of everything.
These are the people, the type of people who are like, oh, you're so special, you have a special mission on this earth. When God told us to be humble and to just be kind, and that we are not special for being human. We're just human, and yes, we'll be rewarded for being good, but we shouldn't do it just because there's a reward attached to it. You know, we should do it because we're generally good people and we want to generally help others, but this isn't what this is about, is it? We are getting into bullshit territory, and by this I mean this woman will claim that she can cure cancer, AIDS, any sort of medical disease with her hypnotherapy, which its only proof is hearsay. So let's see where the madness stops or doesn't, shall we?
Because I let the people heal themselves. But I've had tapes that I played for the class where it's gone step by step how they are cured in one session. And some of them say it's a miracle. It can't happen like that. It can once you realize the power of your mind.
Here's the thing about that. You cannot cure diseases which need medical intervention with your own mind or with products that these people sell you or with anything else, because that's how people die. There was this one woman who refused cancer treatment because she believed in the law of attraction. That's a whole nother pile of garbage. And she refused chemotherapy, and then her cancer metastasized and she got breast cancer and she died from that. So this is a very dangerous belief in my opinion, and there's no proof. Again, it's just hearsay. We don't have any sort of scans, CT scans, MRIs to prove that this alleged hypnotherapy, this alleged science, quote unquote, can cure serious medical conditions, and this is extremely dangerous. And if I was sarcastic before, here I'm absolutely not. Please do not trust these charlatans. God created people and created their minds, who've created medicine and vaccines and stuff like that for a reason. Please, 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 if you need medical attention, go get it. Please, it's extremely important that you are healthy and that you are happy and that you can live a long and healthy and fulfilling life. Do not listen to these scammers. Listen to science and listen to doctors and listen to your own doctor and get the cures and get the therapy and get the things that you need in order to be healthy. Thank you.
In the beginning, I started my classes in 2002. In the beginning, I thought the only people who could take the class and understand it would be hypnotists. That the only ones who would be able to understand what I was doing, even though I've developed my own technique. Then I found out that they were having the most trouble with it because they had been taught one method. They couldn't deviate from it. They had to stick with it, and they had trouble switching to something that was different. So then people started coming to me and saying, can I please take the class? I want to learn it. They're into healing. They're into different modalities, Reiki and energy work. And they said, can I please take this? So I'm having better results with them because they don't have to unlearn what they have already learned.
I left a lot of the video in there in order to keep it in context, even though I could have cropped it, but I didn't feel as if it was good if I were to crop it, even though this woman constantly repeats herself. Anyways, maybe it's also because what you're doing is kind of bogus, and if somebody was taught in one way and now they're taught in your way, they're going to question it, and it's natural for them to question. The questioning is a part of learning, and you're like, oh, you're questioning it, it's not good enough, you're not good enough, or something like that. And the reason why people who know nothing about hypnotherapy and stuff like that, the reason why I have good results with them is because they can be brainwashed into believing that this is what it is, that, oh, past lives are normal and natural, and it's not just made up or imagination or most likely events from that person's childhood or something like that. And they're much more susceptible to being manipulated, and they're much more likely to become victims, because that's the truth, to become victims of this BS, which in my opinion doesn't even make sense. Again, it's a mix of this and that and the other, and she has made so much money. Her and her family have made so much money from this. It's absolutely sickening. It's absolutely sickening. And they have the gall to say that, or people like this have the gall to say later on that, oh, it's the doctors who want your money and they don't care about you and the system is corrupt. Well, you're learning from the big ones, right? And they're definitely not corrupt and definitely not doing it for monetary gain. I'm very sure of that.
They can start out fresh and do it the way I'm showing them. And when they do that, then they're able to do it also. Because I'm teaching it all over the world, and I've got emails from many of my students say the same miracles are happening with them working with their clients.
Where are these emails? Where is your evidence? Again, we don't have any sort of evidence that this quote-unquote actually works. It's just hearsay, and yes, I have been researching, I've been looking on Google for debunkings and stuff like that, but because it's a bunch of hearsay and we don't have any physical records, it's very hard to actually debunk and make an article or a research article about this, because it's a bunch of hocus pocus and you cannot really disprove it because you don't have the evidence to disprove it. So I'm telling you that if you don't have any sort of physical proof, like any sort of scans, or even the emails that you mentioned, which, depending on how they're written, might be fake or might just be delusions. Again, you cannot disprove this, unfortunately, so these people can just, like, make this money and scam people out of their hard-earned money and tell them that they can cure themselves with their brain, and this is very, very dangerous. Please seek medical help if you have any sort of problems, okay? Don't believe these charlatans.
It's just to let people know they have such power in their own mind. You make yourself sick.
Here's why this narrative is extremely dangerous. First of all, there are lots of factors into your sicknesses or your ailments. For instance, it's just genetics. If you have a family history of a certain thing like cancer or heart attacks or any sort of thing. And third of all, it's extremely dangerous to say that you need to, basically this is a law of attraction, think positive thoughts, and if you're not positive enough, it's your fault for having these sicknesses. If you're poor, it's your fault. If you cannot feed your family this week, it's your fault that you couldn't manifest that money and stuff like that. Yes, this isn't exactly what she said, but it's very adjacent to that, and it's extremely dangerous because these people who join these cults, these wellness cults, fall into multiple pipelines at once, and it's extremely dangerous to think such things. It's harmful, and it actually impacts that person negatively because they think, oh, it's my fault, let me, when I get my paycheck, let me pay for these courses and this merchandise and these books will heal me, when the reality is that you are okay to begin with. You just need to go to a doctor, or you need to ask your doctor, or, you actually need friends, a close friend group, your family around, and an actual community which doesn't scam you out of your money. So please, Don't fall for these people.
And people don't like to hear that. You do it to yourself. The ideal state of the body should be perfect health at all times. If there's anything wrong at all, any ache, pain, symptom of the body, it's trying to give you a message. It's trying to tell you something.
Where it gets dangerous because these people will say general truths and mark them and pervert them into selling you their own stuff, their own pseudoscience, because that's what this is. It's pseudoscience. Basically, yes, it is true that your body should be in a state of health, perfect. Not always perfect, but it's a good state of health. But then again, what if you're disabled? What if you have a physical disability? You're not in a perfect state of health then. And basically this woman's saying that if you are disabled or if you do have a health condition, it is your fault, when most likely it's genetics, or maybe there was a certain event which triggered that condition and stuff like that. And yes, if your body starts to ache, it's a sign that you should monitor, but do not monitor with these people. Go to a doctor if needed. If the pain persists, if it gets sharper, or if it's in a certain area of the body. But then again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just telling you, go to medical professionals if you feel as if you cannot mediate your pain with medicine, Go to a medical professional, because if you have, God forbid, appendicitis or digestive issues, this woman cannot actually heal you because she's not a medical professional, okay? Go to the hospital.
So you do this to yourself. And if your mind is that powerful, you can make yourself sick. You can also heal it, because the power is tremendous. The doctors don't have the time to sit down and find out what's going on in the person's life. What is their home life like? What is their marriage situation like? What are they going through? These are the reasons that people make themselves ill. The doctors don't have time to go into that.
She is stating a general truth. I know that in the United States, healthcare is pretty shit, and especially when it comes to people of color and to women and women of color's health in general. In regards to minorities and in regards to women, I wanted to put it that way because I don't want it to sound bad. My apologies if it still sounds bad. Basically, they get dismissed for their conditions. I know of women who have endometriosis and needed surgery, but doctors were like, especially male doctors, I don't care. I think it's just your women problems. I think you need to take some ibuprofen and get over it. You're a woman, whatever, and things like that. But the problem is that she's preying upon these women's and these people's insecurities in regards to their health conditions, and she says that, oh, it's your fault because you chose, let's say, to be into a bad marriage, or you chose to have a stressful job, or you chose, it's your choice that you have these health conditions, and that's extremely dangerous. And most doctors in other countries do find the root cause. They do ask the patient, hey, how was your life? Have you had any sort of stressful activities lately? Have you had a different job? Have you changed the situations and stuff like that? But there are things which cannot be diagnosed like this. And the body is unpredictable, and sometimes illness unfortunately just happens. There isn't much of a reason in some people, and that really sucks. So she's not a medical professional, therefore she does not know what she's talking about, in my opinion, as a non-medical professional who has been raised by a medical professional. So yeah, go to the doctor, and the doctor will 100% know what's going on, and if that doctor won't help you, switch doctors and keep on switching them until you find one who is able to help you properly. And I'm saying this as somebody who, I think I have endometriosis, but I have no idea, so please go and get yourself checked out if you can.
You remember Jesus even said in the Bible, these things I do, you can all do, and more. There is nothing special. We all have these abilities. We just don't realize it, and we put them in the background.
According to my research and of course to my own beliefs, we are not as powerful as Jesus. We cannot literally perform the same miracles that Jesus has, and all of his miracles were full of selflessness, and he was humble, he was kind, he didn't do it to show off. He did it in order to help the people around him. And another important thing is that when some scholars believe that when he said that you could do the same things that he could, it's in the way of spreading his message of kindness, spreading the message of Christianity, spreading the gospel that way, not necessarily performing miracles per se, even though yes, there have been saints who have miracles attached to them and stuff like that, of course. But the main thing is that we can be as kind and we can share his love to others. That's, in my opinion, the point of the passage and what Jesus meant to say. But then again, I could be wrong. I'm not a theologian, so